All right, my regular government people, this is Giles. I have missed you. I am here doing a video lecture with, well, come here. Oh, come here. Oh. I've got Sam and I've got Lily, so we're here to talk to you about the Constitution. We're going to get into the weeds on the Constitution, our Constitution, the oldest Constitution currently in operation, the shortest Constitution. It's under 5,000 words, and I personally happen to believe it is the coolest document in human history. All right, I have sent you a link. It's attached to the Google Classroom to this document. I would throw these 2 pages away and I would just start with this one, all right? This one right here, Constitution, starting with the preamble. If you can print this out, then please pause this videotape and print it. If you cannot print it, if you don't have a printer, then try doing a split screen where you have this up. Actually, you know what? I'm sorry. You're not going to be looking at any PowerPoint or anything on this. So just have it up. Do me a favor. Get a piece of paper, blank, and put it like this, and draw this chart on it. So lay it sideways and lay out this chart. Write this chart down. Leave a little bit up at the room at the top, and then so across the top. House, Senate, POTUS, which means President of the United States, and SCOTUS, which means Supreme Court of the United States. And then the column here, term, qualifications, how picked, sorry, that should be over here, how many, and how removed, all right? In fact, I'm going to put in how many. I'm going to put a slash and say, who do they represent? Who represent? Who do they represent? Who they represent? So pause the tape and make this chart and come back to me. All right? Okay, we're going to talk about constitutional structure. What is a constitution? A constitution is, write this down, a constitution's set forth. How long has it been since you've heard that, huh? Constitution set forth the structure, powers, and limits of government. Notice that I put a small c here. I put a small c here because every government has some form of a constitution. Many of them are written. Some of them are unwritten and are just a matter of custom and practice. Ours is written. England's is not written in the sense that it is a single document. There are various documents like the Magna Carta and the English Bill of Rights and court cases and stuff like that that make up their constitution. But we have one. It is in writing. All right. Now, if you are writing Constitution and you are referring to our Constitution, then you capitalize. So if you see a capital C on the word Constitution in the United States, we are referring to our Constitution. Okay, so make sure you leave lots of spaces on these. I'm going to erase these, and I'm going to fill out each one on the board. One at a time. Okay, be ready. Have your constitutions out. Okay, take a quick look at the Constitution. You will see there's a preamble, and then there's Article 1, and then there's Section 1, Section 2. Section 2 has multiple paragraphs. If you flip, there will be a Article 2. There are 7 articles in total. Here's what we will do. When we are referring to the Constitution, if I am citing the Constitution, or you are citing the Constitution, the first Number up will be the article, and it will be a Roman numeral. So, Roman numeral 1 is Article 1. Then there will be a comma. The second thing will be a section. Section 1, if you see in Article 1, Section 1, there are no paragraphs, so that would be it. If it was Article 1, Section 2, there are multiple paragraphs, and you will see that, so if there are multiple paragraphs, your third number would be the paragraph. So, go to Article 2, go to Article 1, Section 2, Paragraph 1, and read it. Article 2, I keep doing that, sorry. Article 1, Section 2, Paragraph 1. Article 1, Section 2, Paragraph 1. Sam, shush. All right, pause it and read it. All right, let's start filling out our chart. House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every year by the people. So, what's their term? How long do they serve? They are chosen every second year. Their term is 2 years. This is the House, right? This is the House. 2 years. Who are they chosen by? All right, how are they picked? They are picked by the people. Leave some space here because we're going to expand upon that. Well, let's expand upon it now. People. What people? Here's the thing. Who defines who is going to vote in a federal election? This was an interesting thing at the Constitutional Convention. They talked about this. Should the federal government define who could vote in a federal election, or should it be states? And the answer was states. How long has it been since you've heard that? The answer was it should be states. So, in every state had different requirements, but one thing was common: who could vote when the original Constitution was adopted. Yes, you're looking at it, white, male, property owners. All right, so states would define who could vote, and all states, actually New Jersey for a time in the early years allowed allowed immigrants to vote, even if they had not yet to become a citizen. Now all states require citizenship to be, you to be a citizen to vote, but that's a matter of state law. Arizona tomorrow could pass a law that said illegal immigrants could vote. There would be a ruckus if that happened, but they could. All right, so people were defined by the states. And at the time, all states said you had to be what? You had to be white, you had to be male, and you had to own property. Okay, now there was only one limitation in the Constitution, and it is in the second sentence of Article 1, Section 2, Paragraph 1. What is this talking about? And the electors, when they say electors there, they mean voters, of it, each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislature. What do they mean by that? Here's what they meant by that. They meant if you were a state, by the way, 10 out of 11 states had bicameral state legislatures. Pennsylvania only had a unicameral state legislature. We have what? We have a bicameral Congress composed of two chambers, the House and the Senate. If you had a state legislature, like we do in Arizona, that has a state Senate and a state House, so if you had an upper house, and you, get down Sam, and you had a lower house, and if you had requirements such as white, male, and you had to own 20 acres to vote for the upper house, but you were for the lower house, you had to be a white male, but you only had to own 1 acre to vote, then the Constitution says for the House of Representatives, these are the requirements that you have to use for the election of members of the House, right? You get it? For the members of the U.S. House of Representatives. That was the only restriction of who states could allow to vote in federal elections. Then we have a civil war, and what happens? Then we have we have the Civil War, and we start adding amendments, federal constitutional amendments that relate to voting. What are they? Which ones do you know? What was first? The first was the 15th. And the 15th said, you states can't discriminate on the basis of race. Now what happens? We go a little bit farther in our history, 1920, 21, I forget. What happens? The 19th Amendment. What happens, ladies? What does the 19th say? You can't restrict voting on the basis of, I know you're all going to say gender, the amendment says sex. You can't restrict voting on the basis of sex. What else happens? We get the 24th Amendment. We get the 24th, and the 24th says, hey, states, you cannot impose a tax as a condition of voting. You cannot have a poll tax. And in 1973 comes the 26th. And what does the 26th say? How many of you guys voted in the primary election on March 17th? You did that because of the 26th Amendment, which says you cannot restrict voting by age as long as somebody has reached the age of 18 years old. All right, 18 years old. All right, so could Arizona pass a law tomorrow that says only property owners could vote in Arizona elections? Yes, it could. There would be a hullabaloo, but Arizona could because it wouldn't violate the federal amendments. Vermont was the first state to take property owning requirements off of its requirement. Now all the states have followed suit. Every state requires you to be a citizen. All right, so, okay, let's go back to the Constitution. Go back and read Article 1, Section 2, Paragraph 2, 1, 2, 2. Pause it and read it. Okay, how old do you have to be a member of Congress? You have to be 25. There is a woman out of Brooklyn called Ocasio-Cortez that Fox is really mad at and gives a lot of airtime to. She is 28 years old. What else do you have to be? Do you have to be a natural-born citizen to be in the House? Can you be born in a foreign country? The answer is yes. You have to be a citizen. For how long? 7 years. A citizen. And where do you have to live? This is interesting because our state is broken. We've already talked about this in elections. Remember, how many congressmen does Arizona have? Well, it is determined by how many people we have by population. We have 9 after this census. I bet we're going to have 10. We have the state broken into currently 9 different districts. And where do you have to live? Do you have to live in your district? The answer is no. You just have to you have to reside in the state. You have to live in the state. Live in state. Had you better live in your congressional district? Yes, you'd better live in your congressional district. When we went from 8 congressmen to 9, they divided up. There used to be a congressional district that had both Prescott and Flagg. It went back and forth between Republicans and Democrats. Paul Gosar, our current congressman, won it in 2010. Then in 2012, after the 2010 census, it got split, and he knew he was going to lose the one that was just Flagstaff, because that's mostly Democratic. And so he moved down to Prescott and ran in our congressional district and was reelected. All right. Okay, I'm going to erase, everybody got this? I'm going to erase this. And, okay, how many? How many members in the House? Well, that depends on population. Population per state. Population per state. Now, if you go and read note, where is it? On the left-hand side, look at note 3, and it will tell you, there's a long history on this, on how many members were in the House, but in 1929, Congress said, wow, look, if we keep adding new members into the House every time we have a census, our room's going to be too small. So they capped the number. They capped the number at, you guys know this because of our Electoral College lesson, they capped it at 435. Okay, who does a congressman represent? Paul Gosar represents the people in Congressional District 4. So, he represents his congressional district. He represents the congressional district. Can a member of the House be removed? Well, go to Article 1, Section 5, Paragraph 2, 152. Pause and read it. Okay, who can get rid of a member of the House? Remember, congressman and representative are synonyms. I get it. A member of the Senate is also a member of Congress, but you never call them a congressman. You always call them senator. So I'm going to use congressman or congressperson and representative interchangeably. All right? Okay, how can they be removed? Article 1, Section 5, Paragraph 2 says they can be removed by a two-thirds vote in the House. Does this happen very often? No, it doesn't happen very often, because if somebody in the House gets into a whole bunch of trouble, they usually resign before they are expelled. All right, everybody got that? If not, pause. We're going to go to the Senate. All right, now let's go to the Senate column. Senate. Article 1, Section 2 dealt with the House. Go to Article 1, Section 3. Guess what Article 1, Section 3 deals with? Article 1, Section 3 deals with the Senate. Why did they list the House first? As you're going to see, they listed the House first because the House was most closely connected with the people. All right, read Article 1. Section 3, Paragraph 1. Pause it and read it. All right. How long does a member of the Senate serve? A member of the Senate serves for 6 years. How picked? Well, that's interesting. There's language. Now, here's the deal. The language written on this is the original Constitution. If there has been a change by amendment, it has been struck out. It has been struck out. Okay, there is language here chosen by the legislature thereof that has been struck out. So, how picked? In the original Constitution, they were picked by the state legislature. They voted on who would be their senators. The people did not vote on senators. Now, in the early 1900s, there was a movement called the Progressive Movement trying to democratize America further. And the answer to that is, so there was a change, and go and read it. Go and read the, I'm going to write 17th. If you look at them, They're written in Roman numerals. What is 17? Everybody remember Roman numerals? What's this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What's 17th? Well, that would be 10, 5, 2. That's 17, right? Go read the 17th Amendment. What happened with the 17th Amendment? The 17th Amendment changed the way senators are elected. Now, because of the 17th Amendment, they are now elected by they're elected by the people. Just like members of the House of Representatives. All right? Okay, how many? How many senators? That is in Article 131 also. Each state has 2, right? So how many? 2 per state. Now this is kind of weird, and there was a big argument about this in the Constitutional Convention. Because check this out. Walk into the Senate of the United States. How many senators? There are 100, correct? Out of those 100, how many of them are from the states of California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas? The states that border Mexico and have the biggest issue with illegal immigration. 8, right? 8 out of 100. Walk into the House of Representatives. And how many are from California? 53. How many from Arizona? Another 9. How many from New Mexico? I think 5. How many from California? I think it's 37 or 38. There's like a fourth of them, of the members of the House, are from those 4 states. A fourth of our population lives in California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. Yet in the Senate, they have 8% of the vote. In the House, they have almost 25% of the vote. Crazy, right? Okay, who does a senator represent? A senator represents his or her state. Why do I say his or her? Well, there are the highest number of women in the Senate that there have ever been, including 2 from Arizona. We now have 2 female senators. Until the 2018 election, we have never had a female senator before. Now we have 2. Check that out. Okay. What's next? Go to Article 1, Section 3, Paragraph 3. No person shall. Pause it and read it. Okay, qualifications to be a senator. How old do you have to be? You got to be 30, right? Can you be a foreign-born person and be in the Senate? The answer is yes. You have to be a citizen for how long? Citizen for 9 years. And you have to live in the state. Correct? Okay. How removed? Go back to Article 1, Section 5, Paragraph 2. They can be removed by 2/3 of who? 2/3 of the Senate. Okay, we're almost done, but we have to do something right here. Because if you go to Article 1, Section 3, Paragraph 2, 132, immediately after, pause it and read that one. What the heck are they talking about there? The Senate is staggered. The Senate is placed into 3 classes. How did they do this? When the Senate first met, they put groups of senators in 3 different classes. They did it so that no one states that the senators from each state would be elected in different classes. The different regions would be represented in different classes. And then they had a representative of each class, come and draw a slip of paper out of a box to pick whether they were in Class 1, Class 2, or Class 3. How many senators are in each class now? Well, what is it? 33, 33, and 34 equals 100. If you're interested in this, go on the U.S. Senate official website and under glossary and click on, you'll see there's a definition for classes and a short explanation of the history of it. It's pretty interesting. Okay, so we have to change this. 6 years, but there are 3 classes. And one is elected, one every 2 years. So how many senators are going to be elected in November 2020? Approximately 34. It'll be a couple more because people have retired, and but no, I'm sorry, that's not true. Excuse me. That's not true, because if a senator dies or retires, then the vast majority of states have passed laws that let the governor fill that post so they don't have to do a statewide election. And that new person serves in the old senator's seat but stays in their class. John McCain died. Our governor appointed Martha McSally to replace him. Martha McSally will come up for election in the class when John McCain would have. She was just appointed a couple years ago. Guess what? Guess when John McCain's old class is up for re-election? 2020. Guess what? Martha McSally is up for election. I say election instead of re-election because she was not elected to the Senate. She is up in November 2020. Hold on a second. Okay, I'm going to stop this recording and go to a second one because I can only record in 30-minute segments. You guys good? So I'm going to stop this, go get a drink of water, a snack, go play with your dog, do something. I'll be right back.